But first, let me ask you whether you consider Kentucky's win at Tennessee to be a season-changing victory for the Wildcats.
I can't go there. There's a chance we'll look back in a month and see that it changed the season. There's that potential. How about Kentucky putting a bookend on the fact that Tennessee had not lost at home since February of 21 against Kentucky? So it ends Tennessee's winning streak right there at Thompson Bowling. And it does so without, like, the encouraging part is that Jacob Toppin returned, Seville Wheeler and Damian Collins were not available, and their injuries are day-to-day. Wheeler's got a left shoulder problem, and then Damian Collins has a left foot. So we'll see if they're able to return later this week or not. This stat isn't that surprising because Kentucky doesn't often have to play a top 5 team while being unranked. But nevertheless, Kentucky had never beaten a top 5 team on the road while Kentucky itself was unranked until Saturday. They got that done. And the encouraging part was the fact that Kentucky destroyed Tennessee on the boards. They got 88% of Tennessee's misses and 41% of their own. And I thought that was good because offensively it was whatever. You're playing Tennessee, the best defensive team in the country. Kentucky was at 0.91 points per possession. It was a defensive win. Antonio Reeves comes off the bench and he's able to contribute with 18. Sheboy had 15 and 13, and Kentucky shot well from the foul line. They hit 22 of their 25 foul shots. You know, they were averaging 66% from the line, Parrish, going into the game. They shot 88% against Tennessee in a road environment. That's going to get it done. In addition to the fact that CJ Frederick was also key. I mean, he hit 3 threes. I have the stats on this, by the way. We both took over 25% from 3. They hit the over. They were at 31.3%. And then I think we split on the over-under on made threes. It was the under. I had it 5.5. They wound up with 5. I think you said over, and I think I said under, but I don't have that.
I definitely said over. I went over. Here's what I said. They'll go over, and still lose the game. So I was right 1 out of 3. I was right 1 out of 3.
My over-unders were they were right in that wheelhouse, though. How about it? Tennessee also missed 38 layups.
God, Lord.
They could not stop missing layups. So I'm giving all the credit to Kentucky for showing up. Calipari running out that lineup with Reeves, Sheboy, Frederick, Toppin, and
Jason Wallace.
Wallace, thank you. I was like, who's the obvious guy missing? So he puts that lineup out there. Shouts to the Kentucky fans who have been just pining for this. And that was actually successful there. But it was defensively they got it done, and then Tennessee could not stop missing bunnies, man. So I don't know if it's going to turn Kentucky season around, but no team got a more important win. Just no team this weekend had a more important victory than Kentucky stopping the bleeding, getting that victory on the road, and doing it. By the way, overcoming. They got off to an 8-0 deficit to start the game, GP. So where you think here we go again, it wasn't like that. They turned it around. They got it done.
You mentioned that lineup. Credit where credit is due. I know Kentucky fans had been pining for it, as you say. Evan Miyakawa tweeted before Saturday's game, I don't know if you saw this, that based on his data, he thought John Calipari should try with Xavier Wheeler sideline a lineup of Cason Wallace, Antonio Reeves, CJ Frederick, Jacob Toppin, and Oscar Sheboy. As Evan noted, that lineup was far and away UK's most effective lineup this season, but limited possessions, only 20
Very
possessions.
limited, yeah.
Very limited. Against Tennessee, Kentucky did use that lineup and outscored the Vols 29-14 when that lineup was on the floor. All other lineup combined outscored the Vols 42-34. So it's awesome that Kentucky might have found its best lineup. But does it concern you that an injury to Xavier Wheeler, as opposed to the data, is what led John Calipari to actually start using it?
I did think about this. I just wonder if the noise around that penetrated through to Kentucky's coaching room in Calipari, where he was finally going to acknowledge that. Because most programs, they track this stuff. They are at least on a surface level aware of, all right, with what combination of 5 guys. Some programs will look when we have 3-man combos, and regardless of the other 2, when we got 3 guys out there, if it's 3-3, are they plus minus? Are they all that stuff? So the fact that he wasn't willing to do it until it forced him to, I don't know. I think he's willing to basically try and do anything at this point, and you have to consider what they were able to do. And yeah, credit to Evan.
And that,
put that out there.
And I should correct myself. Somebody here in the YouTube comments did. I just had it typed in backwards. My apologies. UK outscored Tennessee 29-14 with that lineup.
Okay.
The Wallace, Reeves, Frederick, Toppin, Shibwe lineup. And Tennessee outscored Kentucky 42-34 with any other Kentucky lineup on the floor. So, like, you put those 5 guys on the court together, Kentucky's blowing out Tennessee. You put literally any other combination of Kentucky players on the court, and Tennessee is handling Kentucky. So it leads to an obvious question. Is no Sylvia Wheeler a good thing? Like, do you
maybe.
Because, like, what this lineup provides, the data is the data. From a just basketball perspective, what it provides is you've got an NBA guard with the ball in his hands, 2 shooters on each side of him, Jacob Toppin and Oscar Shibwe.
Yeah.
That's what that lineup is.
Yeah. And Frederick, by the way, played 37 minutes on Saturday, and his shooting early when they got down 8-0, like, that helped stabilize the team. And I mean, Kentucky can't run 1 point guard. I mean, like, Wheeler's going to get back and he'll be healthy and he'll be on the floor, but it might have to be pretty particular. And matchups matter. Teams who you're going against, like, it's more nuanced and we're making it on its face. But undeniably, going into this game with limited data, but data nonetheless, it showed empirically that 5 was the most efficient. And then lo and behold, they go on the road against the best defensive team in the country, and it proves to work again. It's wild. I'm interested to see how Kentucky continues to play with that lineup and how often those 5 are on the floor together moving forward. Well, again, we'll see Wheeler and Damian Collins specifically, guys who are earning plenty of good burn here if they're able to return later this week or how long they're actually out. But Kentucky fans would love to see those players get healthy soon, but I don't think they would be opposed to the idea that Cal is literally forced to run out that 5 more often than not over the next few games just to see and ensure that's the most efficient way that they can ensure a victory, if not staying competitive against teams that right now, from a metric standpoint, project to be better than them.
You mentioned that most college programs track this stuff. Like, obviously, all NBA franchises do, and it is not an exaggeration to suggest that NBA front offices will deliver this information to coaches and basically tell them, okay, well, this lineup you cannot put these 5 guys on the court together anymore. Right. Or you need to put these 5 guys on the court together more. Like, the numbers don't lie. So NBA franchises, like, when you watch an NBA game, those lineup combinations are often dictated strictly by this data that we're talking about. Like, I don't want to say that coaches don't have leeway to mess with it, but they are under guidance, like obvious guidance, to play the combinations that work and don't play the combinations that don't. And John Calipari, this is undeniable based on the data, has not been playing the combination that works best. He did it this weekend, and Kentucky got its best win of the season. And if he sticks with it, I think there's some reason to believe that maybe that can be a season-changing win for UK. But if he falls back into old habits, and instead of having an NBA guard surrounded by 2 shooters, an athlete like Jacob Toppin, and the reigning National Player of the Year like Oscar Shibwe, if he goes back to predominantly putting the ball in the hands of a 5'0" non-shooter, well, then that will run counter to what the data says. I'm not saying Sylvia Wheeler is useless. Bury him on the bench and never let him play again, but that lineup that Evan pointed out, that Kentucky fans have wanted, that dominated Tennessee on Saturday, looks like it should be the preferred lineup in Lexington. So it'll be interesting to see how John handles that when Wheeler is back and ready to go. On the other side, on Friday's episode, I told you, we were just sort of talking about the top of the SEC, and I said I thought Alabama was the best team in the SEC because I didn't trust Tennessee's offense. And then Saturday happened. The Vols shot 14.3% from 3 and were held to just 56 points against a Kentucky defense that's still 66th in a adjusted offensive efficiency. And Tennessee's offense is now down to 58th in adjusted offensive efficiency. And what history tells us is that it is hard to be a reliably awesome team with an offense that inefficient. You can be good, but can you be as awesome as you want to be to go to a Final Four, win a national championship? It is difficult to do it with an offense performing that inefficiently. Loyola Chicago did make the Final Four in 2018. I looked this up, with an offense that ranked 63rd, but those Ramblers are the exception, not the rule. And if you are somebody who was skeptical of Tennessee's staying power in the NCAA tournament or ability to march deep into the bracket, well, then what you saw Saturday from them on the offensive end of the court is exactly what the skepticism is rooted in.
Loyola Chicago in that NCAA tournament got going with a win over Tennessee. The Tennessee Volunteers, coincidentally enough. You mentioned Bama. Just a note on that. they eviscerated Bama.
My God.
Alabama almost put LSU's program on a show cause or postseason ban 106-66, and we'll have many more opportunities to talk Bama. It was the second largest win they'd ever had by margin in SEC history. They beat Auburn back in 2005 by more, 94-53. Alabama has outscored its opponents by 114 points so far in league play. It's the best team in the conference. Not going to say that's going to for sure be the way, but the way this is tracking, it's Bama. And then, Tennessee is within shouting distance. Obviously, I'm not saying that, again, Tennessee can't necessarily get there. A&M is actually the other team right now without a scratch in the loss column, 4-0, but A&M is 47th at KenPom. Bama is 4th. Those are the only two teams, Tennessee and Alabama, that sit, I believe, in the top 20 right now. Arkansas is just on the outside of that, and I'll touch on this real quick, and I kind of want your thoughts. So I did write a column on Saturday just because Arkansas lost again. It lost for the second straight season to Vanderbilt, and the issues we talked about briefly on the Friday pod wound up showing up here. It was 97-84 when it was all said and done, and Arkansas dropped more than 10 spots in defensive efficiency. Vanderbilt shot 69% in the second half, was 66% from three, and had 63 second half points. And it's on Friday's show, I said Arkansas can miss the NCAA tournament. I put it at 15%. I'm now doubling that. That's at least 30%. Now, it's still more likely than not Arkansas is going to dance. But it's got some issues, man. Like defensively, it cannot continue because I don't think Arkansas offensively is going to be able to get itself consistently to the point you made all of 2.5 minutes ago. I don't think Arkansas, without Nick Smith Jr. specifically, can get itself to be a game over game over game over game kind of team that can give you 75 plus per night. I just don't think that's the case. Ironically enough, it got 84 on Vandy. Vandy dropped 97 on Arkansas's head. So just reason for concern for a program that in the past, 23 seasons has only made 3 consecutive NCAA tournaments once, and that was with 2 different coaches. It actually has not made the tournament 3 years in a row under the same coach since the turn of the century under Nolan Richardson. I still think it's going to get there. I still believe Nick Smith is going to find a way and make his way back. But there's just some concern. I'm just putting it out there now. 12-5 overall, 1-4. This team is not winning the SEC. It's terrible from three-point range. And now it's got to go play on Wednesday. It's got to play a Missouri team that's lost 3 of 4. But Missouri gets the game at home. You know what Arkansas hasn't done yet this season? Hasn't won a road game. So it needs to go and do that on Wednesday to really kind of help turn things around here. I didn't think this was going to be coming. Mea culpa again. There have been a few. I was dead on about Xavier's prospects in the Big East, but I was way wrong on Kentucky being, top 3 good. That wasn't right. And I had Arkansas 5th in the country going into the season. That was a swing and a major miss there. Hogs right now, they're not top 25 level. I don't even know if they're a top 40 team in the country right now.
Yeah, I removed Arkansas from the top 25 and 1. I mean, they're 1-4 in their past 5 games. They're never getting Trayvon Brazile back this season. And we'll see about Nick Smith Jr. I mean, he hasn't played since December 17th, and there is no promise that he'll ever play for the Razorbacks again. This version, like that version of Arkansas with Brazile and Smith, that's an SEC title contender. This version is a version that's 1-4 in his past 5 games, and hadn't beaten anybody on the road all season, as you pointed out. So I'm not saying I'm out on Arkansas because I believe in the coach, and Muss has shown the ability to turn things around on a dime, in previous seasons, around this time of the year or later. So I'm not ruling anything out because I believe in the coach, but this team, the ceiling seems to have been lowered because of just bad luck, injury stuff. The Missouri thing is interesting. Tigers went from 12-1 with a win over Kentucky and a long loss to Kansas to 13-4 after losing three of their past four. They're down to 57th in the net. They're no longer in the top 25 and one. And then you mentioned, and if you're looking for another team like that, it's Mississippi State. Started 11-0. Now the Bulldogs are 12-5 after Saturday's loss to Auburn. They've lost 5 of 6. They've gone from 22nd at KenPom to 50th at KenPom over the past month. A trip to the NCAA tournament no longer looks likely for Mississippi State under first-year coach Chris Jans, but we'll see. And then you touched on Texas A&M, alone in second in the SEC standings, 4-0 in the league after beating South Carolina by 41 points. Aggie started 6-5 with losses to Murray State and Wofford. Now they're 12-5 overall, 4-0 in the SEC, got wins over Florida, Missouri, LSU. So I guess no big wins, but still only other team with the 0 in the loss column of the league standings is Alabama. So that's good recent stuff from Buzz Williams. And then one other team I just wanted to make note of in the SEC, Georgia. 13-4 now, 3-1 in the SEC after Saturday's win at Ole Miss. Only 85th at KenPom. So the computer numbers are not great, but off to a nice start in the league, relatively speaking. Remember, Georgia only won one SEC game, one, all last season. So Mike has already tripled that with, I believe, 14 more league games to go.